Monsieur Thierry Mathieu, Ambassador of France to Londres, Secretary Donor Chanchal Kumarji, DG Indo-French Chamber of Commerce and Industry Payal Kanwarji, Monsieur Pierre Arnaud Cassin, President, CEO and MD of Ultra Confidential, Madame et Messieurs, and members of the Indian and French industry present here today. Bienvenue dans le nord-est de Londres. Welcome to the jewel of India, India's northeast. Ladies and gentlemen, you are today in an environment of a region that is strategically situated between the cusp of India on the one side and the rest of Southeast Asia on the other. We have always been told throughout our lives that we should always be avid readers of history. To be able to engage better, to be able to relate better, and to be able to connect better. And this region, described aptly by the Prime Minister of India, Narendra Modi ji, as the Ashta Lakshmi of India. A region which is bejeweled with every possible resource. Natural and man-made. And therefore today is a landmark day. A landmark day where, under the leadership of His Excellency, the Ambassador of France, we meet on this divine soil, not only to talk about vision and ventures, not only about two nations bound by treaties and relationships, but two people bound by a connect. Our relationship between India and France goes back many, many centuries. But the real acceleration or the real delta has been evinced by both our countries in the last 11 years. And suffice to say, if I characterize it by saying that it's not merely a strategic relationship. It is a strategic relationship but also a soulful relationship. And that combination of both strategic and soulful saw its beginning in 2015 when Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji and President Hollande together took a visionary step by instituting the International Solar Alliance, a step taken by two leaders, a step taken by two nations, a step taken by two peoples that would have tremendous ripple effects across the seven seas and across all humanity. Today it is a 150 nation alliance started by two men and two countries. Soon following in its footsteps, one saw a very deep collaboration between France and India on smart cities and urban infrastructure. As India rapidly urbanizes, that urbanization phenomena has been influenced by France through the ages. From Le Corbusier down the centuries. And that relationship has also deepened. Soon after that, followed the strategic Rafale deal, where to begin with, we looked at 2 squadrons of Rafale fighters to complement our Air Force, and now we are looking at the Rafale N, which is the Navy version of the Rafale aircraft. Beyond that, India and France have also shared a strategic vision for the maritime sector. The Indian Ocean region today is a much more secure place due to the relationship between India and France and the maritime partnership between the two countries. Finally, I come to my department, communications and digitalization, where our country's digital stack, our United Payments interface, has been experienced by President Macron, and now it gives me a great amount of pride that the Eiffel Tower in Paris, the entrance to the Eiffel Tower, is facilitated by none other than our UPI payments interface in the city of Paris in France. So when we use these cliched terms of a deep relationship, strong relationship, I think a true testament to that, if it can be seen across the world, is the relationship between India and France. Now, on a personal note, the Scindia family too has a very, very deep relationship with your country. And many of you will wonder how, and many of you will wonder why. When my ancestor, Maharaja Mahatji Scindia, had firmed up his resolve to translate Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj's dream of Hindvi Swaraj into reality, and he fought all the invaders coming into our country, from the Afghan to the Mughal to the British. When he saw technology changing, the whole translation of India's united forces, when he ruled Delhi from 10th of February 1771 to 1803, when his empire stretched from Attock on the border of Pakistan and Afghanistan to Cuttack near Orissa, and from Bharuch in Gujarat to Prayagraj in Uttar Pradesh, Allahabad, and he could see the British coming. It was the transfer of technology in that era, 300 years ago, when French commanders like Count de Boin from Chambéry in France came in and modernized the Scindia army from sword and lance to cannon and musket. That relationship moved on into the area of Renaissance. When my current home, the Jaivilas Palace in Gwalior, was built, where elements of French architecture were brought in and introduced. And then there were poignant moments in that relationship as well. When my great-grandfather, Maharaja Madhavrao Scindia I, passed away in France, it was the French government that arranged his cremation. It was the French government that assisted in the transportation of his ashes back to India. And it was the French government that erected a memorial in France in his memory. And finally, as we move from days old past to the modern day, that same relationship of transfer of technology, of defense, came alive again in my father's period, where the air base that was chosen to house the two squadrons of Mirage 2000, the Battle Axes and the Tigers, across India, the air base that was chosen, ladies and gentlemen, was none other than Maharajpura Air Force Base in Guwahati. And so the relationship comes full circle. In our history, in our Sanskriti, it is written that time reinvents the wheel, but you revisit that same relationship. And today I stand before you as Minister of the Department of Northeast and Communications, committed to that same relationship between India and France. The Northeast has seen a transformation. The last 11 years has not been about incremental change. The last 11 years has been about monumental change. The last 11 years has been about exponential change. This region of India was seen as a landlocked region of India. The Prime Minister of India, Narendra Modi ji, changed that paradigm and transformed it in people's minds, on the ground in reality, from a landlocked to a completely linked region of India. And when I say that, in addition to what my colleague Bimalji talked about for Assam, this is a region that had 10,000 kilometers of national highways in 65 years of India's independence. In the last 11 years, we built another 6,500 kilometers of national highways. It was a region where rural areas were not connected to urban conglomerates. In the last 11 years, the government of India has spent 50,000 crores, $8 billion, connecting rural hamlets and villages with the mainstream, built 50,000 kilometers of rural roads. In the area of railways, 11 years ago you had one state connected by railways, Assam. Today we have 4 states connected by railways. The 5th one is going to be connected in the next couple of months, and by 2027 end, we will have all 8 states connected by railways. 81,000 crores worth of 19 projects are ongoing. We have built 2,000 kilometers of railroads in the last 11 years. My former portfolio as Civil Aviation Minister, in 65 years we only had 9 airports in 8 states of the Northeast. Arunachal Pradesh and Sikkim didn't have a single airport. Today Arunachal Pradesh alone has 4 airports and the Northeast has 17 airports. So the transformation has been exponential. In telecom, we've connected 96% villages by mobile connectivity. Because today this box is not about communication alone. This box brings with it opportunity. This box brings with it markets. This box brings with it employment. This box bridges entrepreneurship. And therefore the power of the digital highway, unseen, however also powerful. 1.2 billion people on this network. 944 million broadband users. 975 million internet users, $20 billion worth of digital transactions per month, $4 trillion exchanged in a year. 46% of the world's digital transactions taking place in India, ladies and gentlemen. That's the transformation over the last year. And therefore today I invite you into that land of opportunity. We held the Northeast Investor Summit in May of this year. Many of you were present there. 4.48 lakh crore worth of investments were announced. And I remember you have before you today Setat Unwam Daxon in the form of Ambassador Thierry Mathieu. I had invited 150 ambassadors, 78 ambassadors showed up for the Northeast Investment Summit presentation, a record, 78. But there was one man who told me, I'm not satisfied attending the presentation. I want you to set aside 1.5 hours. I'm bringing investors with me. My response to that gentleman was, yes, sir. That gentleman is on the stage today. C'est un pioneer. He's a pioneer. Man of action. And he is a man who keeps his word. Translates words into action. If there is one country that has come to show their country the power of the Northeast, it is France. And therefore, on this day, Monsieur Ambassador, as a Minister in Government of India, I owe you a debt of gratitude. Those claps are not loud. Those claps are not deep enough. Those claps are not wide enough. There's a very cliche term that we all live with. We need to walk the talk. Here's a man who walks the talk. And therefore today I invite you to the Northeast region. We have the Industry and Commerce Minister of Assam, but I would not like to talk about Assam alone. I sent him a little note as well. I said, please talk about the Northeast region. Because you stand on the stage as an Assamese, but on this stage you represent the Northeast. ताज पे एक रत्न नहीं है. हमारे इतिहास और संस्कृति में नवरत्न की बात की जाती है, पर 8 रत्न हैं. असम है, सिक्किम है, मेघालय है, मिजोरम है, मणिपुर है, नागालैंड है, अरुणाचल है, त्रिपुरा है. And each one of those jewels has a story behind it. There are multiple sectors where you can work your wonder. The French have a tremendous arsenal of technology, of productivity, of ingenuity, of entrepreneurship. And here in this Shangri-La of the Northeast, this labyrinth of the Northeast, 45 million citizens, 70% below the age of 25. Every one of them want to be an employer and not an employee. Talent in every corner. capability in Mother Nature, whether you look at agriculture. And I'm glad to see some of the MOUs and LOIs that have been signed today are in respect of that. Productivity at very, very high levels. But what is missing is aggregation. What is missing is connectivity to markets. The same for tourism and hospitality. I've just returned spending 2.5 days in Meghalaya. My God, I cannot even begin to describe it. When you hear the word, the abode of the clouds, it truly is the abode of the clouds. You feel as if you are in heaven. I went to Rangthil where I walked on the living root bridges. Root bridges that have existed for the last 3,000 years. Mother Nature going across cliffs, across valleys, connecting herself. And today we mortals are treading on those, gingerly. Yesterday I spent 3 hours in the depths of Mother Earth. 200 meters down below Mother Earth in the Meghalayan age caves, where you had to crawl through crevices, waist high in water, with professional caving individuals who have trained the Indian Navy. You should send a French Navy delegation to be trained by them. Bob Bryan. Listen to the story. Bob Bryan started caving when he was 18 years old in 1962. The man is 81 years old. He went caving with me yesterday morning, walked 3 kilometers below the Earth's surface and walked 3 kilometers back at the age of 81. The capability of that state. So tourism, hospitality. If you look across that, then when we talk about handicrafts and handlooms, the warp and the weft. I'm wearing a jacket made of our local silk here in Assam, Muga silk. And then you have eri silk, which is ahimsa silk, non-violent silk, because you don't kill the worm that makes the silk. So today's demand of organic and living material, what could be better than this? The crafts work at Hermes, Chanel, the hand weaving, which is worth its money in gold, you will find a plenty in the Northeast. And then you have agarwood. All of us use perfume and colognes every day, don't we? And I wasn't aware till I became Minister of Donor that the oud that goes into that, the maximum potential of harvesting of that oud in the world, because even Indonesia is declining in production, is today in the Northeast, in Assam and Tripura. We have just hiked the quota 5x for agarwood exports. We've given a GI tag for agarwood. And we have a French company. What is the name, Your Excellency? We just discussed. Immobile Lab? Inla Mobile. That has signed an MOU in the Northeast Investors Conference to come and manufacture and produce agarwood from the Northeast. So what you cannot find in the world, you will find here. Bamboo, rubber, edible oil. All offerings of Mother Nature. But aggregation is required. Linkage to market is required. Common production centers are required. Information technology and innovation, my friend has already talked about. One could never dream about setting up a fab in India. Today we have 5 fabs being set up in India. The Tata Semiconductor fab being set up in Assam. 27,000 crores worth of investment. I've got submarine cables coming in to the northeast. This area can be a data center capital to the world because our data costs are the lowest in the world. 9 rupees a GB, 11 cents, where the average is $2.49. We operate at 5% of the world's costs. And therefore, French data centers to be set up in the northeast region. Aerospace and defense we've spoken about. I must congratulate Dassault for coming up and taking the first step in this area along with Airbus. Again, a huge investor in India. And therefore, there are huge opportunities here. And we are standing with you as a partner, with all 8 state governments, with investors like yourself. We are putting in place investor-friendly schemes like Unnati, giving incentive to companies coming into the northeast. A productivity-linked incentive scheme, a PLI-linked incentive scheme. Single window clearances. We're setting up investor promotion agencies across all 8 states. We put together a logistics framework across 12 parameters where I'm working with each chief minister to make sure that those 12 parameters are seamless. And from a logistics standpoint, not only the IMT corridor, India-Myanmar-Thailand corridor that my colleague talked about, but the Kaladan project across the port, Sitwe port, to be able to transport our goods directly to international boundaries. All of this is taking shape as we speak today. So therefore, Monsieur Ambassador and my investors here, the Northeast is a jewel that is serene in its beauty, strong in its potential, and soaring in its capability. What I would like to see is an Indo-French corridor. An Indo-French corridor that could be characterized from Lyon to Lumning, from Toulouse to Tavan, and from Paris to Pasighat. That is the corridor that we should envision. It's a rare moment where when India rises, the Northeast is heralding that rise. India is today growing at 6.5% GDP to 7.5% GDP growth rate. But the decadal growth rate of not Assam alone, but all 8 states of the Northeast, decadal, 10-year growth rate has been between 9.5% to 10.5%. So if India is the train, the Northeast is its engine. And therefore today, I would like to invite you, create a conjunct between our 2 nations for the Northeast. France, that has given the world art, that has given the world architecture, that has given the world aeronautics, and India, that has given the world spirituality, that has given the world sustainability, that has given the world scale. And therefore, let's together script a new grammar for growth. A new grammar for growth where innovation must meet inclusion. A new grammar for growth where progress must meet purpose. And to that grammar, let us commit ourselves from the Seine in France to the Brahmaputra in Assam. Merci beaucoup.